Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday. I had to think about that because yesterday was a holiday. Yesterday was a Monday and a holiday. So, first of all, personal shout out to my cousin, Trez, today. Tessie, Trez. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. So, anyways, let's get going. So I know I said I was going to do the happiness anchors last week, but I found something that I remembered I've been wanting to do for a while. So, and I'm feeling a bit soapboxy today. Good morning, Muddy. So, it's a soapboxy kind of day. So I'm pulling out that box. I'm standing right on it, and we're going to get down to this. And I just want to preface this with this comment. This is for all the misogynists in the world. And for all the people who think they're right. All right? That's all I'm going to say. Because I know there are a lot of good people out there. I know there are a lot of good non-misogynists who, really support women, who really lift them up, and who really make them feel like they belong. So, good morning, Cousin Jeannie, who wore me. Oh, my God, she wore me out. They wore me out yesterday. I slept like a rock last night. I went to bed at 9, woke up at 7:15 this morning. Even my eyelashes hurt yesterday. But I don't think it was so much them as much as it was it was just really humid yesterday. And I have to admit, Sammy, because I know you're in Georgia, I am pretty sure if I lived in Georgia, I'd be dead by now. I would never be able to leave my house. No matter how much I hydrate, humidity just always seems to get, humidity and heat always seem to get me. It's like they're out to kill me. I would not do well in hell. But anyways, like I said, oh, look, Sammy's excited for the soapbox. Yes, baby. So I don't want to lose anyone with this, but I really want people to keep an open mind. Again, this is dedicated to all the misogynists out there and all the people who support them. Okay, because I really want women to feel empowered by this. I really want you to just really kind of soak in who you are just as you are right now. Not trying to lose weight, not trying to gain weight, not trying to whatever. Just I want you to soak in the empowerment, the beauty of who you are, the amazing person that you are. No, people have a tendency, and I'm going to get to this when I read what I have to read, but I'm still doing this preface thing because women forget how empowered they are. We're the ones who get the periods, okay, the cramps that just, for some women, upend them and can upend them for days. Some women not so bad. I was one of those where, my whole back would just give out, and it turns out it was cramps. Or I would just have these gnarly cramps that just make you feel like somebody's ripping out your insides, just going bam, like a horror movie, and just whoosh, pulling out your uterus or just squeezing the life out of it. Women are the ones who give birth. They're the ones who carry this child for 9 to 10 months, who have to squeeze them out of a tiny hole. Or who have to endure the pain and the process of healing if they have to have a C-section. These are the women who have died giving childbirth. These are the women who, have this, X amount of pounds baby pressing on their bladder for the last couple of months, where they're just like, oh my God, I'm so excited about having my kid, but I just really want this kid out. I've not met a pregnant woman who hasn't gotten to her 9th month and has said that. They're all like, I love this, and I don't mean to be complaining, but it's just so, because you got a human living. This baby that you're about to hold is literally in you. And yet somehow people seem to forget that women can do this. I never had kids, but I know enough people who have kids, and I have enough nieces and nephews and people who call me auntie to know they're mamas. All right. But yeah. These misogynists out there, they tend to forget that women can do this. They tend to forget that even when we don't have kids, we're still blessed with a period. Into our 50s. Yes, God, I'm complaining. You've never met someone who wishes for menopause more. But anyway, I know. I'm sure that entails a whole other thing, but you know what? I've been warm-blooded my whole life. So like literally hot flashes don't totally bother me because they just feel normal. But anyways, that's my own complaint. But what I wanted to preface what I'm about to read with that, because I want women, while I'm standing on this soapbox, for everyone in the back to hear me, because women need to feel more empowered. And yes, Sammy, humidity and heat does suck the life out of you. But women need to feel more empowered. Women need to feel like they are meaningful, like they bring something to this world, not just to make babies. I mean, people that say, oh, well, they're just here to procreate. No, do you know what? Like I said, I've never had kids, but I know how hard it is to carry a kid because I know people. I have followed people through their pregnancy. I've had people, just text me and going, oh my God, I can't, please, So anyways, I'm going to read this and then I'm going to go back over it because there's a few things that I was like, So yes. Good morning, older sibling. This is the soapbox day. So, and tomorrow we'll get to happiness anchors. But today I wanted to find a way to empower not just myself, but other women, no matter what you're going through, no matter what size you are, no matter how tall or short or thick or thin you are. I want you to love yourself exactly as you are right now. I want you to be able to go to the mirror after this and look in the mirror and go, hey, you know what? I matter and I'm important. Hi, Allie. Good morning. So today is soapbox day. So anyways, all right. So this is from We Are Spiritual Beings on Instagram. It's all one thing, no spaces. We Are Spiritual Beings from Instagram. This is their account. So here we go. Let's do this. Fat women get called unhealthy. Skinny women get called anorexic. Muscular women get called manly. Curvy women get called indecent. Women with no curves get called undesirable. Women who dress up get called attention-seeking. Women who don't are called lazy. Women who speak up are called loud. Women who stay quiet are called weak. It never ends, does it? No matter how you exist, someone will find a way to make you feel wrong, and that is clear proof that the problem was never our bodies, our choices, our voices. The problem is the world's obsession with reducing women to something that can be criticized, controlled, and contained. We are not here to be palatable. We are not here to fit into your fragile expectations. Our existence is not an invitation for your commentary. The problem was never us. It was always you. That's why I wanted to preface this with, this is for the misogynists and the people that support them, because it's always been about them. It's always been about somebody trying to push somebody down and pin somebody down, no matter how they identify. No matter how they identify. And that's why I wanted to do the show. I got my oomph back. Like my cousin said, I really needed the good sleep. And, I've had good sleep though, but for some reason that was just, I woke up a few times, but boy, I was just like, oh, rock. I was a rock. I was like a total slab of stone last night while I slept, despite waking up a few times. So one of the things I wanted to go back to, women who dress up get called attention seeking, i.e., she was asking for it. There is nothing more in this world that I hate than that. Why can a woman not look sexy, feel sexy? Maybe she is, just trying to feel like her best self. And in some cases, depending on what has happened to them in their childhood, it could be attention seeking. But that doesn't give you permission to touch them. That doesn't give you permission to step over that line and say, well, she was asking for it. She didn't ask you for it, pal. No, she didn't. She just said, you know what? I feel like maybe I need to be admired. So admire from far away. Don't worry about what she's doing. Maybe she needs help. Maybe she needs therapy, or maybe she's just comfortable in her body. Maybe she just loves the way she looks. Maybe she likes to dress sexy. Maybe she likes to, dress however. And there's another thing they forgot. Why is it that when women dress dowdy, all of a sudden, oh, she dressed like a school teacher? Fuck that. Seriously. Yes, there are going to be words in this, okay? I'm not holding back today, because when I first read this a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh my God, yes, yes. This is exactly how I feel. You know, God did not put women on this earth. The higher powers, the universe, the Big Bang, whatever you want to call it, did not put women on this earth to serve men. They put them on this earth to be equal. And I don't get why people don't see that. I don't get why people can't understand that. I don't get how people forget that when it comes to bodily stuff, women do not have it easy. Okay? Men don't have to carry babies. Men don't have to grow them. Well, that's the same thing, right? But, you know, men can stand up when they pee. We can't. Have you ever been in a gas station bathroom? Ew. Ew, ew, ew. And this isn't anything against the men who are just these wonderful human beings. I am the product of a very strong woman and a very girl dad. And sometimes when my dad and I are watching stuff and he sees these women being mistreated, he's like, he gets so mad. He gets mad because he is a girl dad. And I have no doubt in my mind that even if I had had another sibling and he'd be a boy, he would still be a girl dad. Because my mom was a strong person too. My mom was very strong-willed. And it took me all these years and all these decades to really understand, except I kind of transcended above just even what my mom was trying to say. Because, you know, it's not just about us being, you know, I don't know. It's not about men and women. When you really rise above it and look at it, you'll see a lot of men out there during the women's protests, and people will make fun of them and say, oh, you're gay. Why? Because they believe in something. Maybe they're marching with their wife. Maybe they're marching with their daughter. Maybe they're marching with, you know, other people because they care. They're open-minded. They don't believe in pushing someone down to make themselves feel better, to make themselves feel superior. That bothers me. And I'm going to be honest here. Before I healed my trauma, a lot of what I looked for were domineering men. And not all of them were. The two best relationships I had were men who didn't feel like they had to dominate everything. And yeah, exactly what Allie says. Men and women are supposed to complement one another. What one can't do, the other can. They're supposed to be a team working together. Yes, equality, equally. And you know, that's why sometimes I feel like I grew up in a bubble, because I saw this in my household. That my parents, they split everything, including parental duties. But I tell you, when I got in trouble, they would take each other's side first before they hear my story. It's kind of like, hey, you know what? You guys made me. You should be listening to me, okay? I didn't ask to be here. You made it happen. But they would. But you know what? And that was, to me, what a healthy relationship looked like. I mean, yeah, they had their moments. They had their issues. Who doesn't? I don't know anybody in a perfect marriage. Maybe some people handle their issues better, but everybody kind of does this from time to time. Maybe not to the point of the extent of some people. But I mean, you know, we're humans. We're going to butt heads with people from time to time. We're not always going to agree. But when it comes to what a woman's value, we shouldn't place our value in other people's hands. We shouldn't place our value in any other hands but our own. And if you don't love yourself, now's the time to start figuring out how. How can I love myself? I don't care if you're a man or a woman or however you identify, okay? If you do not love yourself, it's time to start figuring out how. If you have to do the shadow work, do the shadow work. You can Google Carl Jung. If you are deep in the shadows, I highly suggest professional help or at least a support person or group. Okay. And it can be just your best friend. It can be someone you really, truly trust who is not going to judge you for what you might be telling them, but they're going to hold space for you. They're going to be compassionate. And you may not find that person right off the bat, just like in therapy. You may not like your first therapist, but hell, you're allowed to go and find a new one. Because the whole point of finding a therapist is for finding the right person to help you, to help guide you through this journey, through this dark tunnel, through this dark place. And when you find that, whether it's a support person or, whatever, a journal, even journaling, please journal. That's where you get everything out. And if you do like a regular notebook or just loose leaf paper and all that, you can burn it later safely. Please burn it safely. All right, please do burn it safely. Right now, half the state's on fire because, there's all kinds of lightning strikes happening left and right. But yeah, so let's just break this down. Fat women get called unhealthy. Skinny women get called anorexic. Muscular women get called manly. Curvy women get called indecent. Women with no curves get called undesirable. Women who dress up get called attention-seeking. Women who don't are called lazy. Women who speak up are called loud, and women who stay quiet are called weak. And the interesting thing about these people who are calling them that? I would bet you at least, I don't have a number, but I hear a lot of women doing this to each other. I absolutely hear a lot of women doing this to each other. And we have to be better. We have to be better. We have to support one another. We have to, lift each other up. If you're a non-curvy girl calling a curvy girl indecent or a hoe, does that make you any better? No. And why? Because you're probably upset that you don't have curves. If you're a curvy woman calling a skinny girl, like a ironing board or whatever, you're no better. Because, but you could be saying that because you're mad that people are always hammering you because you have curves or because you might be a little plus size. We have to stop the infighting. If women want to rise and be better, we have to stop the infighting. And this is the kind of society a lot of us grew up in or are still growing up in. But I find there are a lot of breakthroughs in the 21st century. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud for all these, younger millennials and all these Gen Zers and all these who are just kind of, sometimes I think they go a little overboard, but at the same time, they're not putting up with people's shit. Okay? And sometimes they think they're a little too self-righteous. And as a Gen Xer who just kind of observes, it's kind of like, really, really, sit down, Junior. Let me tell you some stuff. All right? But here is something interesting. This is something I watched about a year or so ago, maybe a little bit longer. It was a documentary, and they were talking about the remains that they found in a mound of a Viking. Okay, some of you may know where I'm going with this because I think we've had this talk before. But, everyone's so excited. Oh my gosh, we found this Viking. Everything's all intact. The horse is there. Which, seriously, I hope they did not kill the horse just to bury it with this person because that's just wrong. The dog. I think there was a dog in there. It's like, come on. But, those were their traditions, right? The sword, some of the riches. I don't know how to explain it, but some of the riches, like their swords, their jewelry, their, just a full regalia of a warrior, a Viking warrior. And as time progressed on, and this is a while ago, okay, Yeah, I know, right? Allie's, I think I know what you're talking about. And so anyways, as time progressed on, and technology got better, somebody said, there's something wrong with your analysis of this. Those are not male bones. They're female bones. So then it shifted from, well, maybe she was the companion of a Viking warrior. Really? The woman, she's buried with a sword and a shield. A couple swords and a shield, I think. I mean, the documentary's out there, so you can, if you want to know exactly what she was buried with, you can go look. But then they started realizing, there were different markers on her that suggested she had been in battle. There were queens, in England that tried to fight. But somehow over time, women got subdued. And why? Because people realized how strong we are, how level-headed we can be. That doesn't mean men aren't level-headed. Of course they are. But the idea that a woman was buried with full Viking warrior regalia and ceremony and everything, it blew their minds to the point where they couldn't even say, okay, hey, yeah, that's great. This changes a lot of things. Maybe it was a Viking female. No, all of a sudden she became a companion for a while. Until people, and I believe it was the men too, that were saying, no, she was the people who really love that history, who are really fighting for the women, saying, no way, this is a girl. And yeah, she was a Viking warrior, and yeah, she was buried with this. She was probably a high-ranking Viking warrior. And in that moment, I was like, how many other people have been found that they just dismissed as a companion? But I tell you, believing what I believe, I think this Viking warrior came to somebody in someone's dream and said, motherfucker, you better set this right, okay? Because I am a Viking warrior. I mean, come on. Seriously? We're talking about a race that used to go through villages and pillage. You think they did that by themselves? I'm sure they had people that took care of the hearth, right? And the home and cooked the meals and all that. But I wouldn't be surprised if there were Viking women out there. Hell no. Come on. Why is it so hard for us to imagine this? Why are we in the day and age now where women look at each other and say nasty things about each other to one another? Why are we in a day and age where, men think it's okay to say these things to some women or to women in general or to have these thoughts? And I don't mean all men, okay? I mean the misogynists. And I think that's what we're going to call them from now on. Just the straight out misogynist. Why? Why is it okay? And a lot of these people, and I hate to say this, are in the Bible Belt. They treat their women like they're some kind of factory processing machine for babies and taking care of the house. A lot of women will sit there and say, oh, well, I'm a housewife. Yeah, lady, you're getting paid. Okay? You're getting paid to be a housewife. Those clothes that you're wearing, the food you get to buy, yeah, you're basically a paid wife housekeeper. If that's how you want to look at it. I don't think that way. I mean, if you're happy and you're happy being the homemaker and that's your dream, that's great. That's fine. But don't belittle other women because they choose careers. Don't belittle other women because they choose not to have children. Don't belittle people. Okay. Sammy, is that who she was? I'm trying to figure this out. I just saw the name, but yeah, anyways, we have to be better. And as women, we have to rise together. And as women, there are a lot of women who will go so far to the other end that they'll be like, well, men don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of men out there, ladies. There's a lot of men out there who are good men, wonderful men, men who support women, men who lift their women up, who, not necessarily put them on a pedestal in a very obsessive way, because that's not lifting a woman. That is basically pinning her down while making her think that she's extraordinary. I'm talking about the people out there who make us feel like we belong, who make us feel like, we can do anything because they support us, and who we make them feel like they can do anything because we support them, no matter what kind of relationship you're in. And by that, I mean across the board, however you identify. We have to be better at being the humans we're meant to be and lifting one another up. We have to rise together. We have to just really kind of find a way. Oh, she was a Celtic warrior queen. See, there you go. I don't know how to say that because the Celts have a very, you see the letters, but like every letter sounds different from what it looks like. But she was a Celtic warrior queen. Okay, warrior queen. Warrior queen. Jesus. You know, I made my coffee super hot today so I could drink it, and now it's cold. But anyway, the reason I wanted to stand on this soapbox today was because I want women to be reminded that not every man out there is a misogynist. There are good men out there. No, even if you're not attracted to men, okay, there are good men out there. You see them marching. You see them marching during Pride. You see them marching during the women's marches. You see them marching for women's causes. There are a lot of good girl dads out there. You know, I'm fortunate enough to have one. I'm very lucky in that respect. You know, and it's kind of funny because out of my parents, my dad was the more empathetic one than my mother. You got to be stronger. You act too weak. My mom was one of these people. You know, if I didn't put any effort into something and we were going out, well, you look like you don't care about how you look, which basically equates to you know, are you lazy? It's like, no, I just don't feel like doing anything today. Or, you know, I didn't realize I had depression in my teens. So a lot of times she was just like, I was lucky I was able to change my clothes. But, you know, we didn't talk about that in the 80s and the 90s because that was taboo. But that being said, I mean, I love my mother. My mother just had a lot of different ways of looking at different things. So, you know, say lovey. And again, it's nothing to put down my mom. But, yeah. But I think we need to stop looking at the things other people say about us. One of my favorite things that sibling taught me is this quote: what other people think of you is none of your business. And like I said, a lot of times you may think it's your business. When she first told me this, I was not really through my healing. I was kind of in the midst of my healing, all my trauma and drama. And I was like, oh yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. If I hear someone saying something about me, I'm just going to be like, mm-mm. And yet I realize what she meant now. Those people are always going to have opinions. But when we stop letting it matter to us, we rise above it. That's just someone's opinion. What somebody else thinks of you, what other people think of you is none of your business. Because who cares? They don't know you. They don't know you. If someone wants to make fun of the way you look, just keep walking. If you're happy in the way you look, or you're happy with what you're wearing that day, absolutely. Sammy says, I think our moms were raised with that homemaker mindset. Oh, no, not my mom. My mom totally, I don't know. My mom was just very strong-willed. Very, very strong-willed. Nobody was going to tell her what to do. A man could be equal to her, but not better than her. So for someone who never really got into women's lib, she really kind of typified the idea of women's lib. But that's what she wanted for me. She wanted me to be stronger. She wanted me to, you know, transcend all the stuff that hurt me, bothered me, or whatever. But my mom was one of those. It's like, well, it happened and it's over with, so why are you still dealing with it? Because I hate to say this, because I hate to use the term boomers, because boomers, they lasted for quite a long time. So you have these early mindset boomers, and then you have the other ones that are like, you know, older sibling and hybrid muddy, who were just kind of like really open-minded, really, you know, they're kind of the end of the trail, right? Towards the end of the trail of the boomers, who are just really kind of entail that whole open-mindedness and that, you know, like, I don't want to say the sexual revolution, but for some reason that just landed in my head, and I don't know a lot about it because that happened before me. But thanks to the women before me. Shelly, never mind. Sorry, I was about to go somewhere I shouldn't go, but you saw the face. You saw that look on my face, like, mm-mm. But anyways, enough for that reason. Just because, thanks to the sexual revolution, women don't have. Okay, I'm just gonna say it, all right? Because this is the girl power. Thanks to the sexual revolution, women don't have to worry about a man being in the room. Okay? And feel bad about it. No. Because, until you find a good man and someone, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do by yourself when you're single. And it's not always happy, but, anyways. I'm sorry. But anyways, here it says right here, it never ends, does it? No matter how you exist, someone will find a way to make you feel wrong, and that is clear proof that that the problem was never about our bodies, our choices, or our voices. So, but yeah, even with the moms that were raised with the homemaker mindset, and you know what? In a way, Sammy, I do agree. Because I remember my mom. I remember in high school, I wanted to take shop auto whatever, because I thought, you know what, as a girl it would be good for me, because I was an only child, so I didn't have a brother, okay, and I thought, this kind of stuff would be good for me to learn. This would be good stuff for me to know. And I always loved tinkering with things, so I thought, wow, this would be fun. My mom literally put the kibosh on that. No, if you want to take something extracurricular, take, home ec. Well, what the fuck do I need home ec for? I know how to cook. I know how to clean. I know how to do all this shit. Maybe I don't know how to darn a sock, but I know how to sew things up enough to get away with it. And it's okay if that's something you love to do. If you like home ec, great. But I wanted to try something else, and my mom's like, no, that's for boys. I told my dad about this just very recently, and he's like, why didn't you say something to me? I would have told her that it's fine. And I'm like, I don't know, because mom told me not to. She did that a lot. Mom told me not to. And that's caused some friction in my dad's memories of my mom, because it's kind of like, my mom had a lot of skewed views. So yeah, you're right, Sammy. In a way, yes. And honestly, I don't think it had anything to do with me taking either one of them. I think it had to do with what would people think about her if they found out I was in shop. If I was learning how to tinker with cars and build engines and all this stuff. And I do hate to say that, but when I look back on some of the things, I realized that my mom was worried that, things that I did would be a reflection of her. And it's like, no, you know what? I would say that, yes, Allie's correct. People seem happy to make others feel less than. And I'll be honest with you guys, I honestly think that comes from a place, and this is just me kind of, shooting off the cuff here. Sometimes I really think it narrows down to hurt people. And yeah, what Sammy says, girls took home ec, boys took shop. Seriously. And then all the people in the world are like, well, how come you don't know how to change a tire? How come you don't know how to change your oil? It's like, really? Because you wouldn't let me. Okay, now I admit, at my age, I just like, no, can AAA, please come fix my tire. But I can tell you this right now. If I get stuck on an old road, I do know how to change a tire. My last boyfriend taught me how to change a tire, because he was like, you don't know how to change a tire? It's like, no, but I want you to teach me. And he did. He absolutely did. And I was like, oh, all right. He showed me everything. He even showed me how to tighten it and how to loosen it, by standing on the, oh God, I can't even think of what it's called. What is it called, you guys? Not the jack. Anyways, whatever. I know, see? Because I didn't take shop. And Allie, I took woodworking and metalwork at school and was the only girl in my school area. See? I would have loved to have done that. Maybe not woodworking because, maybe woodworking because I used to like to hammer things, and even metal stuff. I mean, these are how artists are born, I don't know what a wheel brace is, but you know what? Good for you, girl. Good for you. I probably would have been the only girl in my auto shop class, but you know what? I didn't care. I wouldn't have cared. I really thought it would be a good idea. And then I thought about taking it in college, and my mom's like, no. And it's just like, fuck, dude, seriously? I'm 18 years old. But see, this is me. I've always been afraid to venture out into my own thinking and to venture out into doing what, my own thing. I've always kind of let the world dictate what Shelley Marie does. And so I stand on my soapbox from time to time, screaming at the top of my lungs so everybody in the back can hear. And yet I'm realizing right now, having my own little mini epiphany, that I still don't follow what I'm saying. I mean, I don't make fun of other people. You know, there were, yesterday I was out GWing with my cousins, and the very first place we went to, there were some loud people in there, and you could tell that there was a bit of a mental thing happening there, and I just kind of, I just went about my business. That's just how they were. They're a little bit, I don't know how to put it because I don't want it to sound mean. But you could tell there was a bit of a mental issue happening there, okay, with this family. And nothing bad. They were just loud. But this woman comes up to them and she says to them, and I was within earshot, saying, I'm not going to, she's all, I want to tell you this to your face because there's a lot of people talking about you in this store behind your back. And she's saying it loud enough for other people to hear, right? But you guys need to not be so loud. You need to lower your voices. And she's all, I'm just telling that so you don't feel embarrassed. And I'm thinking, lady, just ignore it. Don't worry about what other people are doing. You think you're being, you're being righteous by doing this, but you're being self-righteous because you're sitting here trying to make yourself look better than everybody else by basically doing what everybody else is doing just to their face. Just leave them alone. I mean, if you are not bright enough to figure out that there is some sort of mental issue happening here and that they're not just being allowed to be loud, I mean, you could tell. And I was just like, you know what? As Sammy always says, love and let love. I'm not going to worry about them. They're not going to, this is a moment in my life. And it's like, once you realize it's a moment in your life, you just kind of zero out and focus on something else. But that's what I'm talking about. We just need to be better as people, all humans. And again, no matter how you identify, we all need to be better humans. Because there's no one person better than somebody else. That is one of the biggest things that Mom Barbara ever taught me. And I know that our parents teach us this stuff, but it was the intensity of which this lesson was delivered that really made it stick in my head. Because I was down on myself. I was feeling poorly about something. I was thinking that I wasn't cool enough or good enough or important enough to be liked by one of their friends who was married to a high-powered kind of person. I felt low. I mean, CEOs scare me. When I worked for companies, and especially with Sissy Joe, and I had to work as her admin to the executive assistant of the executive, I hated dealing with the executive directly because I always felt intimidated. And I think the reason I always felt intimidated is because I never felt like I was enough. I never felt like I was enough. And sometimes I still do that. Sometimes I worry, but then I remind myself, hey, you know what? Just be yourself. People that are going to like you are going to like you. People that aren't, that's not your problem. Not, just like we don't we don't have something in common with everybody. That sometimes that just happens. But that doesn't mean we have to forget about those people. Because maybe they're going through something else in their life. The people that like to hold other people down generally is somebody who has probably had some kind of issue happen in their life. Sometimes it's just the way they're raised. And that's where I really think the misogyny comes in, where they just are taught that they are better than everybody else. And they're not. And circling back to what Mom Barbara said, I remember we were sitting there in the living room, and Mom Barbara just comes charging out, and she's all, you know what? And I looked at older sibling and I said, oh, you're in trouble. And she looked right at me. She's all, no, you. And I'm all, uh-oh. And she told me, nobody is better than you. You are no better than anybody else. Everybody is here for their own purpose. And, there's nothing else I can say with that. Yes, older sibling, Mr. Emer. See, I still can't call him Dick. So Dick Emer was the head of oh crap, I can't think of it. What was it called? Sibling. I can't remember now. But it was one of the largest medical companies in the United States that eventually got bought out. There was a lot of controversy over that. But that was a long time ago, so we won't go into that. But Mr. Emer and Laura's stepmom had worked together for a bazillion years. And so I got to meet him. Super fabulous man. Absolutely funny. No filter. No filter. And I remember, for a while we were just kind of visiting him at his house and just kind of hanging out with him and his wife. And I mean, he was neighbors with Steven Spielberg. So the reason I'm saying that is because a person on this level would normally terrify the hell out of me. But Mr. Emer kind of helped me. And this happened after, that's it, NME, National Medical Enterprises. So I'm going to finish with this story because Mr. Emer was just one of those people that he came down to your level. And I don't mean came down to your level, but I mean, it's like if he knew that something was freaking you out, he would just kind of lower the intensity because Mr. Emer was a big personality. I mean, this dude was a big personality. He was just, and he had his moments of being potentially intimidating, but it was never intentional. I think that was just him being a boss or him being honest. And sometimes I think we mistake intensity with people just being their true selves, and sometimes it's a little hard to take. But one of my favorite stories is Mr. Emer he loved everybody to love him. And he loved everybody. He was a CEO and was always in the Wall Street Journal. I didn't know this. If I had known this, I may have been like, just because I do get so intimidated. But after, when I got to know him was after Mom Barbara said to me what she said to me. And like I said, it stuck in my head. And I remember Mr. Emer would always sit there and go, he'd always say, just call me Dick. And I'm like, no. And then he gave me this stern look and he's all, I said, call me Dick. And I said, no. And I said, you don't understand. You were introduced to me as Mr. Emer, so you forever shall be known as Mr. Emer. And he's just like, and I think after that, it just became kind of an inside joke with us. Because I'd be like, Mr. Emer, my name is Dick. It's like, yeah, good for you. But, it's just somehow, somewhere in there, the intimidation factor just left. And I realized that people like him and the people that I would meet down the way, like one of my favorite big bosses, Fred intimidated a lot of people, but we had a jokingly bashing of the minds one day. And cause he kept messing with one of my jerseys on my chair, one of my hockey jerseys, cause I was going to a game that night. And I was just like, if you freaking touch my jersey again, I'm going to break your hand. Because it's like, it was a rivalry between the two colleges. But he came back and I was so scared that he was going to be mad. And he just laughed at me. He's all, you and I were going to get along really well. And then he just walked away and I was just kind of like, and then, one of my coworkers heard that. She's like, wow, you were so in with Fred. And Fred and I had a wonderful relationship. Unfortunately, he ended up having to leave because he developed dementia. But I will always hold Mr. Emer and Fred in a very special place in my heart, because I realize that sometimes these CEOs, these people that may feel like they're intimidating, they just want someone to stop treating them differently, to stop kowtowing to them, to stop bowing to them. Now, some CEOs will be like, yeah, you need to bend the knee to me. But people like Fred and Mr. Emer, no, these were guys who they were intimidating. They could be intimidating, but the minute you shot something back at them, all of a sudden, it's like you broke through this weird wall and were suddenly in, So, oh yeah, siblings bringing up all the people. Uncle Walt, too. Oh my God, Uncle Walt. I know, you guys, I could share these stories forever, but everybody was always afraid of Uncle Walt, except Shelly Marie. I just gave it back to him. At that point, I was working in my new job. Fred and I had already, I'd already become in the Fred Club. I'd already become in the Dick Emer Club. And, I was like, no, I'm not going to take your shit. And I think what it was that really kind of broke the thing is he started teasing me about my baseball team. It's like, no way, sir. I don't think so. You do not touch my beloved teams or we will have problems. And he did. And I was just like, oh yeah. And that just kind of popped something in my brain. And then later when we were, having the family reunion for Sibling and her family, people are like, what is happening with these two? Because, I basically had Uncle Walt eating out of the palm of my hand. And I'll tell you why. Because I did not let him intimidate me. I didn't. But also because these three men who really tried to intimidate me, I've loved every single one of them. I've loved every single one of them. And I will go to my grave loving every single one of them. So I promise this will be my last story because this one's funny. Mr. Emer, when Laura's stepmother passed away, my mom came up to help. Mr. Emer and CD, right? CD? Was that her? Oh God, I can't even think. Anyways, they had pretty much everything handled, but my mom wanted to help Laura. Wanted to help older sibling because despite their very, anyways, she was like another child to my mom. Both of my soul sisters were like daughters to my mom. And so she came up and helped, and at least just to be there with, for older sibling, just to kind of be that emotional support. And so we're standing there and they're lowering everything, and Mr. Emer comes over and he's all, and who's this? And I'm like, oh, this is my mom. And he's looking at me, he's all, and, cause Laura, well, this is like one of the first times I met Mr. Emer. And older sibling brought him over and she's all, yeah, I just wanted you to know that just like Gladys, Shelly Marie is part Irish. The first thing he does is look at my mom and then he looks at me like, and my mom didn't miss a beat. She's all, her father is Irish. My mom is straight up Filipino. All right. She was born in Hawaii, raised in Hawaii, but she is Filipino to the core. So obviously it's springtime. So mom has a tan already. And he's just looking at both of us like, and then my mom just flat out told him her father is the taller white man. He's the Irish one. And he's all, oh, okay. Cause he's all, Gladys was always telling me. And I'm just like, I said, I come with two parents, right? Just like, but I love that man. And I miss all three of them. I do. I'm feeling a little emotional right now because I really do. I don't think I realized the impact they had on my life. And, these are three men who could have made women feel small, but they didn't. They didn't. They had the power to. And maybe in their youth or whatever, they might have. Mr. Emer, no, because Gladys gave it to him left hand, verbal right hooks, verbal left hooks. She's like, I can't tell you how many times this woman quit and he had to beg her to come back. Like, no. She was his executive assistant and he knew he couldn't do it without her. They built this company together, them and another guy. And she was just, but also he was raised by a strong single mother. So, there are people out there that we shouldn't let intimidate us. Oh yeah, Mr. Emer was an internet legend. The show's getting kind of long, so I promise you tomorrow I am going to share with you how Mr. Emer was an internet legend. In fact, I'm going to put it in my notes right now. Mr. Emer, internet legend. He was actually an urban legend. So sibling, if I forget, remind me tomorrow, okay? Because that was a great story, and I really think it's going to add to the happiness anchor thing. Because, just, circling back to this being about women, and not all these strong men I've been talking about. These men, maybe not so much Uncle Walt, because Uncle Walt was a man's man. So was Fred. So is Mr. Emer. But Fred and Mr. Emer, they reminded you of who you were. When you broke through that wall of theirs, when you were able to break through and get past whatever test they were putting you under, they reminded you to not let people walk all over you, to not let people step all over you. There's another show I want to do this week. And it may come tomorrow. I promise you the happiness anchors will be coming. But my cousins and I, on our little, journey, bargain hunting and everything, we went to a place called Laura's House in San Juan Capistrano. I highly recommend, if you live in that area, Orange County, you find these places to go and spend your money at. They are more of like a boutique kind of Goodwill, but all their money goes to obviously keeping the store going, but also the majority of the proceeds go. Laura's House is for victims of domestic violence. And they have a class, the DVAT, Domestic Violence Advocate Training, that you can sign up for, that you can take, and all these different things. And I read an interesting poster about teenagers in violent relationships. So I wanted to do a show on that this week. I think I'm going to sign up for their Domestic Violence Advocate Training, because you know what? We can judge. People will say, why don't these women leave? Why can't they do this? Especially when we're talking about shows like this, where it's about empowering one another, where it's about really just kind of, lifting one another up. Sometimes they're afraid. It has been known that there are people who, as they put it in Criminal Minds, kind of a underground railroad of sorts to help women of domestic violence, and sometimes men. Don't forget, men can be victims of domestic violence as well, but we notice it more with the women. So, don't discount a man when he talks about that, because sometimes I think we do forget the men in these situations. But to be fair, the majority of the time it is with women, and there have been women who have been known to have been in safe houses. People can get the information, and then they go and they kill everybody in that house. And if you think that's a lie, it is not. It has happened, and it is sad, and it is something that we can prevent. Because, like I said, sometimes the people that act out and say mean things about people are people that are either raised that way, or they're a hurt person hurting people who used to be bullied. Or they're a hurt person that hurts people because something bad happened to them. And, we may not be able to heal their pain, but maybe we can guide them in the right direction. So, anyways, I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry it went long. I mean, older sibling kept peppering me with these people, and there are so many good stories that I have. I may have been single for a very long time, but I am telling you, when I look back on the last, couple of decades, all I can think is wow, look at all these experiences I've had. Look at all these people I've met who have really kind of, now that I think about it, added to my life, and in some ways changed the way I think. That's what we have to do for one another. That's what we have to do as women. We have to empower one another. We have to rise above all these stupid things that people say. Okay? So go out there, lift one another up, empower one another, and just know that I am behind you, and I love every single one of you. And Allie, I love you too. So, and just, even if I don't know you, I love you. Like the sign says, if people can hate for no reason, I can love for no reason. All right? Have a great day.